Welcome to On the Go with AAUW, American Association of University Women. Our topic is nutrition in public schools. There's an estimated 26 million children each day who partake of the school lunch program, the low-cost or sometimes free healthy nutritional lunches at school. However, how healthy is it? The National School Lunch Campaign, Healthy Lunch Campaign, and the Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine say that these school menus are chock full of saturated fat, cholesterol, and not enough of the healthy nutritional fruits, vegetables, legumes, and that type of thing. So our guests with us tonight, we are fortunate to have Jocelyn Hsu. She is a certified nutrition educator, co-founder of Real Food for Kids, and a mom with kids in the Fairfax public school system. With Jocelyn, we have Ryan Lonnett, and he is also a member of Real Food for Kids and the founder of Empowered Wellness and a health coach. So welcome, Jocelyn. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you for having us, Kathleen.
My pleasure. Now, first of all, I have to ask, what is Real Food for Kids? What is that organization? What is the mission?
Well, Kathleen, our mission is to work in collaboration with the community to increase the quantities of healthy foods that are available in the schools, in the Fairfax County Public Schools. And we also work on educational programs to for the kids and their families to help them make better nutritional choices.
That sounds great. And this seems like sort of a basic question, Ryan, but could you tell us what is real food?
I can. And it seems like a difficult question, but messages around food are very confusing these days. Real food is food that's not processed. We have a lot of success talking to kids in schools with a simple message and saying to eat foods from farms, not from factories. Farm foods tend to have one ingredient, and factory foods tend to have lots of ingredients. So if you consider, how many ingredients are in a banana, just one. How many ingredients are in a carrot, just one. So those are examples of real foods.
Real food, great. Now, for more information about your organization, you do have a website, realfoodforkids.org, and we'll be putting it up for our viewing audience as well. So if they need more information of what you're all about in Fairfax County, they can get information from your website. Now, you have children in the Fairfax County school system, and of course you care about what they eat during the day, but is that the only reason you got involved with healthy eating, healthy food?
So Kathleen, when my son Ethan started school in Fairfax County, he started there in first grade, and I have always cared about getting my kids to eat healthy foods. And I read the menu that was offered for Fairfax County, and it looked good. It looked like there were lots of whole grains and lots of choices of fruits and vegetables. It looked like they had fish tacos and baked chicken nuggets and things that sounded pretty healthy. And so I just let my son buy it. And over the year, he kind of started complaining that he didn't like it and he'd rather pack his lunch. And after a little while, I went into the cafeteria and sampled some of the food myself, and I realized that it really wasn't quite as good as it sounded. It was very processed, highly processed and packaged, and it really looked like it could come from a vending machine rather than from a cafeteria. So Ryan and I agree that we both were a little disturbed by what was actually the actual food. And so I looked on the website, the Fairfax County website, and found the ingredient list. And that's what really got me started, and started talking to other parents, and that's how Real Food for Kids was born.
I see. And is that pretty much how you got involved?
Yeah, for me, I'm part of the wellness team at my own kids' elementary school. And I'm also I'm often invited to speak with kids in Fairfax County schools on the subject of healthy choices. And through those experiences, I've been afforded a firsthand look at the kitchens and the foods that are served in the schools. And I think you can deduce that this is an area that I'm very passionate about. And when I saw how few kitchens were actually working kitchens and how many of the foods were processed, I was frustrated because the education that we're providing to them for making healthier choices, it's difficult for them to do that if there are few healthy choices available, right? Whether it's at school or at home. Mm-hmm. So I became, I wanted to understand how I could help influence positive change, and I learned about the Real Food for Kids group in Jocelyn, and I, called and said, how can I help?
That's wonderful. I guess I was surprised that there aren't, functioning kitchens in the school, and what you're describing is like airline food. What they're really getting is like what we get on airlines. Kind of disgusting. Now, who in the Fairfax County school system, who decides the menu? Who decides the food that's going to be served to the children?
So in Fairfax County, we have a department called the Food and Nutrition Services Department, and they have nutritionists who do create the menus based on the USDA standards. And so the local schools actually have very little choice in the menu that's offered. It's a Fairfax County-wide menu, and everyone gets the same choices.
I see.
And the Food and Nutrition Services group also works with the vendors to purchase the food. So they contract out the food that we get.
Okay, great. And there are programs out there that promote the farm food over factory food. And the USDA has a program to get local farms and local schools connected. Do you know if that's happening in your school?
Yes, in Fairfax County, and actually in the state of Virginia has a farm to school program, and November is Farm to School Month, and Fairfax County had very minimal participation in Farm to School Week this year. A few schools, I'm not sure of the exact number, but it was very few schools got some produce from a farm, and our school didn't get anything for Farm to School Week. So we're hoping that they'll expand that program in the future, because it's a great way for the kids to learn where the food comes from, and it tastes better when it's fresh from the ground. So,
yeah. And then I think as an added bonus to getting it from local farms is the impact to the environment, that it's green on the environment as well.
I would agree with that.
yes.
Agree? Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And we know that most schools, we hear a lot even on the news, that schools are removing vending machines, they're removing the sugary sodas, we hear about obesity. But what if your child is not obese? Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Sure. So first of all, it's great what they've done with the vending machines, because the sodas and the sugary drinks, in my opinion, are a major contributor to the obesity problem that we're having. And Michelle Obama is doing some great things with her Let's Move campaign, for sure. When we talk about the health crisis, consider that 5 of the 12 leading causes of death in the U.S. are heavily influenced by lifestyle choices. And so the stakes are high. And and obviously obesity is a big part of that. But no, it's Real Food for Kids and the wellness movement aren't just about obesity or addressing obesity. And if your kids aren't obese, you should still care. There was some recent research that shows that I think the results will be published online by pediatrics, that 13% of kids that are of normal weight were diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes. And so not only did they have elevated blood sugar, but they also had elevated blood pressure and elevated cholesterol. And so Jocelyn's kind of a resident expert on this topic. Anything you want to add to that?
Right. So the statistic that really floored me was nearly a quarter of our teenagers are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. That's stunning. A quarter of our teenagers. It's stunning. And in 2003, the CDC actually predicted that of children born in the year 2000, at least 1/3 will become diabetic. And given these recent statistics, it does seem like we're on a path to meet that, which is that's our crisis. That's why we care. and that's why everyone should care. The good news is that eating more real food and less processed food is a great way to prevent and combat diabetes.
Terrific. Yeah, it's amazing. Now, also when we hear about, eating good food, eating healthy, that's almost always coupled with getting enough exercise. Do you think our children get enough exercise in school?
So when you say enough, it makes me wonder, well, okay, so enough in comparison to what exactly? What are the benchmarks? And I'm not the expert here, but I do believe that in other countries, like China, for example, there's a requirement to have at least an hour of physical activity in the school every day. In the U.S., it's going to be varied state by state. In Fairfax County, we require 90 minutes of PE every week. And then there's 15 to 20 minutes of recess every day. So I've seen a lot of teachers firsthand incorporate more physical activity into their lesson plans during the day, and the kids love it, and I think it's great. So I think that there could be some improvement with sharing those best practices, and if that were done, then I'd feel much better about the amount of exercise that they're getting.
How about you, Jocelyn?
Well, I also recently just saw a study that was released, a 2010 study. It was released in conjunction with the Early Bird Diabetes Trust in the UK, and they're studying children and tracking these children to see who gets diabetes and what are the factors. And what one of their summaries is that inactivity does not lead to obesity. Obesity leads to inactivity. So in their study, they showed that really the kids are very active in general, and they are just as active as they were 50 years ago. They did a timeline comparison. But once the kids get obese, that's when their activity level drops off. It may not be as comfortable. They may not feel as comfortable or as confident to do physical activity. So it's very interesting because people think, oh, it's just because the kids are watching more TV or playing more video games. But really, when it comes down to it, it's the one thing that's changed is the amount of sugar we've started eating in our country. And the food that we're eating and the highly processed nature of it, and especially the amount of sugar, and that's sugar that's often hidden that we don't even know about.
Wow, so sugar's the culprit again. Now we're going to talk about something we've heard on the news fairly recently, one of my favorites, pink slime. The big hubbub about our hamburger meat, how it was fortified with this ammonia-laced pink slime. So, Jocelyn, do you want to start the conversation about that?
Well, this is interesting. Brian and I were discussing earlier, we were actually talking about our hamburgers way before pink slime. This was kind of a Real Food for Kids rallying cry. My son was doing a science experiment, and I'm sure you've heard of a similar experiment where you take a McDonald's hamburger and you put it on the counter, and you put a real hamburger on the counter, and you see how the mold doesn't grow on the McDonald's hamburger, but it does on the others. And you would think that, oh, this means that the McDonald's hamburger is bad. Well, in contrast, we actually looked up the ingredients when we did the study, the science project, and found out that McDonald's hamburgers only have beef, salt, and pepper. And so I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And we realized that we learned scientifically that it was because of the lack of moisture that no mold grew. However, when we looked at the hamburger in Fairfax County, there were 26 ingredients in the hamburger, and that was a real problem for us. So we started looking at that, and FNS, we had raised it as an issue, and FNS had already started looking for a new hamburger when pink slime hit. So when pink slime hit, they were primed and ready to go with a new hamburger, and they were able to respond very quickly thanks to Real Food for Kids pressuring them to do so.
Well, that's great. So you averted the whole pink slime crisis there.
Yeah, our team of parent volunteers for Real Food for Kids has been able to get in front of over 50 PTAs in the last year and get those PTAs, almost all of them, including the Fairfax County Council of PTAs, to adopt our resolution to get better food in the school. So, whether that influenced the decision or FNS just wanting to make the choice to provide a better product, whatever influenced them, it's a great result. So we'll take it.
Yeah. Well, so you are making an impact.
We hope
wonderful.
so.
I think so.
That's wonderful. Now let's talk about something a little more fun than pink slime. I understand you had an event called Food Day. So can you tell us a little bit about what is Food Day?
Right, so Food Day is actually modeled after Earth Day. And Food Day is an event to bring together Americans of all walks of life to talk about ways to push for healthy, affordable food produced in a sustainable and humane way. So it's a big word for saying, you know, you want to have better food across the board. And so our group thought this would be a great way to bring attention to our school lunch issues that we had. And we had a great activity planned at my child's elementary school, Wolf Trap Elementary. We had local chefs, local business people, the media were all there. We had our school board members, and our star visitor was Chef Ann Cooper, who's the nationally renowned renegade lunch lady who has reformed the lunch programs in a few places in Berkeley and Boulder, Colorado.
That's terrific. And the kids all turned out for this?
We had a great turnout. There's a lot of pictures on our website, and they're showing here.
Oh, we're showing some pictures now?
Mm-hmm.
Terrific.
And you know, I think we did a good job of not only incorporating the diet piece and the real food, but also we incorporated exercise. We had a healthy choices obstacle course where we incorporated, you know, that the kids would have to leave their home in the morning, make a choice of food, and they'd have to take a different route based on their food choice, go to school and go through the lunch line, and again have to make a choice of what they're going to have for lunch, and their route got harder based on the kinds of food that they chose. So there's some of the things that we did to have fun and kind of make a point that, you know, your performance is going to be dependent on your food choices. So it was a great day.
Yeah. And one of the highlights of the day, I think, was we made a huge salad. So one of the things that Real Food for Kids has been pushing is to get salad bars in schools. You can see the picture of our huge salad on the screen, and it's actually prepared in a sanitized child's lunch, not a lunch pool, a swimming pool. And we used rakes to toss it and to serve it. And the kids just loved it. They actually, a lot of the kids helped. We went to a local farm in Great Falls, Virginia, just 8 miles from our school. And the farmer there, Chris Gare, was kind enough to donate the produce for the salad. And the kids went and harvested it, and we all washed it together. And we made the huge salad. And the kids came, and they kept coming back for more. And I love this salad, they kept saying. And so it really does show that kids will eat salad, and salad bars are one of the best ways to get kids to eat their healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, I was wondering how the kids react to this. I mean, obviously the parents are all for the healthy food, who wouldn't be? But, you know, the child, from the child's perspective, they can sometimes be picky eaters. They don't always make the right choices, as you were saying, Ryan. But they're bought into it.
Yeah, they did. And this is a subject that I know well. In my profession, I work with families that want to eat healthier, and I work specifically with picky eating kids. And at the end of the day, the kids are going to eat food that tastes good. So that's, you know, you got to make it taste good for them to eat it.
Okay, that's good advice. Now, also there's, we're talking about real food, but there's a lot of confusion out there about organic food. Even, you know, I go to the market and I see the organic is 3 times as costly as the regular. And I wonder, you know, is it 3 times better for me? Is that why it costs 3 times more? What's the deal with organic?
Yeah, so I'd say for me, because I value the benefits of organic, I'm willing to pay more. And it does cost, you know, it does cost more. Every family is different. So, you know, I'd add that, you know, for some families, you know, or some foods, it's more important to have organic than others. You take, for example, a banana or an avocado or a pineapple. Those foods have an outer shell or protection on them. So organic may, you know, not make as much of an impact there as it would with something, you know, one of the dirty dozen foods that are more susceptible to the chemicals, and they don't have that protective covering.
You're calling those dirty dozen?
Yeah, they would call it. I have a list of dirty dozen. People could look them up online, but they're going to be foods that don't have that protective covering, like an apple or green leafy vegetables, peaches, pears, grapes, strawberries, and things like that.
Oh, good to know.
Right, and the good thing about the organic food is there have been studies that show that the nutrients in the organic foods actually are much stronger and better and in higher quantities than in the non-organic foods. So you could buy a smaller apple, for example, a smaller organic apple, and get more value than you would, nutrients than you would in the large non-organic apple. So it is actually worth it to buy, especially that dirty dozen, the berries and the things where you eat the skin. It's much better to buy those organic whenever you can.
Great, that's good to know. Good to know also. Now, a part of what you do is to educate. You know, you talked about that obstacle course at Food Day, and you run educational programs to educate our kids. Now, I understand you did some kind of a sugar experiment or some sugar. Can you tell us about that, Jocelyn?
Sure, we did. I think Ryan and I both like to do the sugar example, and we like to stack up sugar cubes. You can see in the picture there are little sugar cube pyramids next to me. And the pyramids are representing the amount of sugar in various foods that we brought in. And the kids had to guess which stack of sugar went with which food. And they were shocked to see how much sugar was in some foods. And so it's really great to talk to them about the sugar, and they get very excited and they learn how to read the labels. And it's really great for them to see, like, really getting it. The light bulb goes off in their head about, oh, I need to make better choices. So that was fun, and I know Ryan does lots of things also.
Yeah, like I said, I get invited to schools to talk about healthy choices, and we try to keep the message simple. We tell the kids, you know, the healthiest drink is water, and to eat foods from farms, not from factories. And if they can kind of master those two things, then they can be happy and healthy for a long time. The sugar thing's very fun, you know, not only with the kids, but also with the parents and the PTAs. There's a lot of parents that come up to me and say, you know, I'm having my morning yogurt and my orange juice and my protein bar, and I don't understand where where I want to be. And you know, we can kind of show through sugar, you know, that those, you know, you could be having a package of donuts, a thing of chocolate milk, and a Snickers bar, and get, you know, actually less sugar than you would in some of the things that people normally eat.
Yeah, we have to be smart about reading those labels, and I know that just because something says natural doesn't necessarily mean it's nutritious. That's not the same thing, is it?
Well, you know, Jocelyn's, you know, talked about, you know, how fast these diabetes, you know, this issue has kind of, you know, ramped up. And, you know, just 25 years ago, the average American consumed about 25 pounds of sugar in the food that they ate. And today, they're consuming over 155 pounds of sugar. And that kind of like coincided with the whole, you know, non-fat and light movement. They took the fat out of the food, but then they put sugar in instead, and so we've seen a 600% increase there, and it's a problem.
Wow, it sounds like it, yeah. Now, there's also a, kind of a movement, a push to get back to scratch cooking, that we shouldn't be buying these things already made at the supermarket that have sugar and you know, other things in it. Spaghetti sauce has sugar in it. That's not how my mother made it at home. So what is your thoughts about you know, cooking from scratch? Is that something we should do? And
well, scratch cooking for schools can be a daunting proposal, given that we don't have working kitchens in our schools. But there are certain things that we could make from scratch that we should think about doing. We talked about the salad bars and how that's not even really cooking. It's just having the fresh foods available. So you know, people are doing it in other school districts, cooking from scratch, and we have the school board is working to get an assessment to find out how we can best move to bring healthy foods to our kids, and scratch cooking may be a part of that, and it may not.
I see.
Yeah, I think it is a complex issue for sure, and the assessment is going to be very valuable in helping to determine the go-forward strategy. But in the meantime, you know, there are certainly some opportunities, pardon the pun, but for, you know, there's some low-hanging fruit for some quick wins. And one that comes to mind is there's a product called the PB Jamwich. Now, this is the school's version of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it's, you know, there's no less than 3, you know, sweeteners in it, including high fructose corn syrup, and it's packaged in a plastic bag. It really does look like it's kind of made for a vending machine. And you know, I wouldn't want my kid to have that as the central part of their nutritious meal. and I wouldn't want it for Jocelyn's kids or kids on free and reduced lunches or anyone else. So I think we can do better there, and I think that also that the cafeteria workers would embrace the opportunity to cook more scratch foods or make just a simple peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the kids.
Okay, so a PB&J, that's something they could make in a non-functioning
Or
kitchen.
grilled cheese or something like that. Grilled cheese also comes in a bag and it's heated up, and then the heat condenses and drips and makes the bread soggy. So
Yeah, and
I'd much rather have a scratch grilled
Sure.
cheese.
on the financial side, I mean, it's hard to believe that it would be less cost effective to just make that stuff in-house rather than buy the packaged kind.
Yeah, great. Well, I think if you're a parent out there and you've been hearing about some of these concerns, I would encourage you to go to these websites, realfoodforkids.org, find out some more information. You get involved in your kids. I want to thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jocelyn. You've given us some food for thought, real food for real thought,
Yes.
a lot to digest. But thank you very much for coming on board, and I'm just hoping that the audience out there will get energized to find out a little bit more about what their kids are eating in the schools and at home. Very important.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
You're welcome.